Hi there, it's Tessa. So, if you've been following my channel, I moved to the UK recently after living in Canada and the US most of my life. I was born here, so I'm returning. I'm kind of like an American, actually, but I'm also British. So, this is my experience. This is what I hope you will find helpful because when I came back here, I really wasn't sure what to expect. And so, today I'm going to talk about what is it like being over 50 if you are living in the UK. Is it any different than, let's say, for example, being in the US? Well, for starters, I think there is probably a little less ageism here in the UK and Europe in general. People are not segregated quite as much by age here. We don't have those massive retirement villages like Sun Valley in Arizona where everybody's over 50 or over 60 or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, we do have retirement homes here, obviously, and buildings that are dedicated to people over 60 or over retirement age, but it's generally people are more integrated into society here. I think if you're over 50, that's not a big deal. In fact, I think they've been looking for people that age to come back to the workforce because so many people retired early during the pandemic. And I don't think they have quite as much ageism when it comes to hiring. I could be wrong. I've not looked for a job myself, but I think maybe there is a little bit more flexibility when you're older to work here and be considered still pretty, viable as a candidate. So, what are the other advantages to living here over 50? Well, I can't go further without saying, of course, the NHS, even though that's available to everybody who is eligible here in the UK at any age, it's especially valuable when you're over 50 because let's face it, you are more likely to have some little healthcare issues pop up. And not only do you have free healthcare, but once you're over 60, your prescriptions are free, right? And you get a free eyesight test and you can get a free flu shot if you're over 50. So I think having free healthcare is free peace of mind. It's a really nice thing to have. I appreciate it. I know it may not have been run as well as it always has been, but I think it's fabulous compared to the US system where even if you're retirement age, you get some Medicare, you get what's called Part 1, which covers your hospitalization, but then you've got to pay additional a month to get Part 2, which is all the other stuff. And you've got to have a prescription plan on top of that. So it's still kind of a racket, and you're still liable for unexpected expenses if you're over retirement age in the US. Not so here in the UK. So that is number one on the list. Great health care benefits. I love it. Now, as far as getting money from the state or from the government, how does that work here? Well, they have something called a state pension. It runs a little differently than Social Security in the US. You get a fixed amount. So you have to pay into the system for at least 10 years before you can get anything. And you get an extra bonus or a full state pension if you paid into it for over 35 years. So they don't give it to you lightly. Whereas in the US Social Security, doesn't matter, how many years you've worked or how much you paid in, you will always get some kind of benefit. Also, with Social Security, you can start claiming reduced benefits at age 62, whereas here in the UK, you have to wait until you're 66. There's also different credits available. Let's say you're on a pension here and you're a low income person, then you can get some help, additional help with things like fuel bills and what have you in the winter. So there you go. I think the state pension here is maybe, I'm not sure if it's probably something you wouldn't be looking at anyway if you're just thinking of coming over here for an extended period of time or if you're maybe relocating here after retirement. But it's worthwhile to know that I think the US system to me is a tiny bit better. What else can you expect if you're over 50? Well, for example, public transportation. One of the great things about living here is that you don't have to have a car. You definitely really need to have a car in the US. And of course, as you're getting older, maybe you don't want to drive as much or maybe you don't feel as comfortable driving. I can tell you that at age 70 here, you have to sort of re-up your driving license and make sure that you're not going blind or something. But if you want to get around without a car, if you want to save some money and not have a car at all, then you get a nice discount on public transportation. You can get a free bus pass if you're over 60, and you can get something called a senior rail card, which costs you, I think, about £30 a year. and you'll get a third off rail fares, which is pretty sweet. And that bus pass is good for any time of day, I think after 9 o'clock. They don't want you commuting to a job on your senior bus pass. So that's kind of nice. And not only don't you have to have a car to get around here, but you get a little discount on public transportation as well. So, what else do you want to know about living in the UK over 50? Well, I can tell you that we are the most common age group over here, just kind of the same as the US, as probably the world is getting older because of us baby boomers. So the most common age group in the UK right now is that 54 to 56-year-olds. And unfortunately, even the divorce rate has gotten older. I mean, you're more likely to get divorced here if you're in your late 50s, early 60s. So you will have a lot of company if you come over here and you're single or divorced or whatever. So 50% of the population is over 40, and 25% of those are 60 and older. So, like I said, you'll have a lot of good company. And I think it's true also in the US, almost half the population is over 40. So, that is not hugely different. I think it really comes down to the kind of lifestyle you can have here over 50. So, like I said earlier, I think they're a little less ageist here. I think they're a little more accepting of people that are older. I think people are a little more polite. They're a little more considerate. There's a few more things in place for people that are older to get around and to get help. And it's just generally a little bit softer and gentler culturally than it is in the U.S. You're not farmed off to a retirement home. Well, maybe you are, but it's not the usual thing to do. I think a lot of people just sort of stay in their homes and they stay in their villages or the towns and they age in place. And if they want to do something a little different, they may sell up the family home and then move into a town and get a town flat and get rid of their car and get freed up for travel and a new life adventure. So that can be your lifestyle too if you are over 50 here in the UK. So like I said, there's great health benefits. Free healthcare, can't go wrong with that. Free prescriptions if you're over 60. Not free public transportation, but sort of reduced cost public transportation with your free bus pass if you're over 60 and your rail card. Hobbies, you can pursue all of the hobbies that you would ever expect to find. I mean, golf can almost be played year-round, maybe not in the north in Scotland in the winter, but grass stays green pretty much all year round here. You can get stuck into becoming a rugby fan or maybe a cricket fan, learn a new sport. They've even got paddleball here. Get into motorsports, like I said in my last video. There's even things as prosaic as having a bridge game at the local village hall. I mean, you can also take yoga classes, Pilates classes at your local village hall. I mean, unless you're in a really rural, remote area here, you've got a lot of things to take advantage of it to make a really full and fulfilling life if you're over 50. I think it's a great quality of life, and it's also a little bit cheaper than the US. Yes, it's only about 8% cheaper, but hey, we'll take it, right? So I think, yeah, the cost of groceries is slightly cheaper, and the cost of housing can be slightly cheaper. So I think the advantage of having, two major airports like Heathrow and Gatwick to fly into and out of to do those international flights, plus a bunch of regional airports that are never that far away if you want to just buzz on over to Europe and have a long weekend, all contributes to having a really wonderful quality of life if you live here in the UK and you are over 50 and you want to make the most of your retirement or the rest of your life. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. Of course, I'd love to see your comments, and thanks again for watching. I love it. And I will see you again on the next video. Bye for now.